Hello, everyone. How you guys?
Terry and Jasmine back here with, authority. Let's talk about it and
Catching up with mom.
so today we want to talk to you about a subject that's kind of near and dear to both Jasmine and I's heart. We both, as mothers, have children, or she has children that had special needs. And we just want to talk about the challenges and just some of the things that we went through. So I'll start with my experience. And I have gotten permission to share this information with all of you from Jasmine. So Jasmine is my middle child. I have 3 children. I have Stephen, my son. Jasmine's the second. And then Jennifer is my youngest. And Stephen, from the perspective of raising him, like it was easy. The biggest problem I had with Steven raising him was when he was a baby, he used to get ear infections all the time. And then he ended up having to get tubes in his ears. But he wasn't a sickly child. He didn't cause me any problems. I don't think Steven was ever suspended from school or anything. So that was kind of my life. Then.
Well, hold on. Steven was not all unicorns and rainbows.
I didn't say that. I'm taking chronologically.
This fofo used to run away.
Listen, I'm taking things chronologically. So Stephen was 3 years old when Jasmine was born. So, the first 3 years, like I said, were pretty, easy, calm, whatever, with him. So then came Jasmine. Jasmine, look at her. Beautiful, big, beautiful eyes. And she just had this smile. And everyone was just, all googly over Jasmine. But Jasmine, she was a challenge. When I had Jasmine, I was married to her father at the time. And, we made a decision that I would stay home with Jasmine. Because my ex-husband grew up in a household where his mom stayed at home and took care of the kids. So it was very important to him that I stay at home. And I did that for 6 months. And that was about all I could take. Because this girl right here did not like me. Okay? So she preferred her father. She never wanted to sleep. She never wanted me to do anything for her. So her and I didn't get along really well. And about 6 months was all I could take before my ex-husband came home one day, and the baby, I'm laying on the floor crying. The baby was laying on the floor crying. He was like, okay, what's going on? Said, one of us, I'm talking about me and Jasmine, needs to go to work. Since she's only 6 months old, I think it needs to be me. So anyway, I did return to work, and, that was that. My third daughter came along when Jasmine was just under a year and a half.
Almost 2.
Yeah, she was a year and a half. And when Jennifer was born, and that created some challenges for Jasmine.
Well, actually, I was 2 because it was 1992, and now my birthday's in January.
Yes, so she was 2. 2.5. Yes, so 3 years between Stephen and Jasmine, and then 2.5 years between Jasmine and Jennifer.
Yes.
So anyway, fast forward to school. So Jasmine's in elementary school, and again, my son, he's 3 years ahead of her. He's in school. Everything's going well. Jasmine goes, and the first problem was Jasmine went to afternoon kindergarten. Kindergarten was half day. And the first challenge we had was Jasmine would go to afternoon kindergarten, and Jasmine slept the entire afternoon.
I slept all the way through kindergarten. I don't know how I passed.
Right. So she slept through kindergarten. So then when she gets into the first grade, we start finding that she's a little behind. She's having trouble, keeping up with, with the reading and the writing and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, starting in elementary school, we had some challenges with Jasmine, and ended up getting diagnosed as ADD and being put on Ritalin. That was the drug of choice back in the 90s, I think. And then eventually ADHD. When we got to junior high school, more issues started to surface, and eventually in high school, I believe it was.
No,
it in high school?
It was middle school. Middle school, it was how can I say this? It was the work of all of it, like it was intellectually,
yes,
but it also was emotionally.
Yeah, so in junior high, it started with, Jasmine being in having emotional support at school. But then eventually, did you ever have anything more than emotional support at school?
No.
No.
I
Okay.
wasn't
So
like in like special classes or
no,
anything like
no, it
that.
was
No.
just emotional support. So I'm talking about that because if any other parents out there know, if you have a child that has any type of special needs, you have an IEP. And
Yes.
you go through this process where you meet with the school and there's other people involved. And at one point, I believe this was in high school. Jasmine, I used to say she had a team of professionals because
Yes.
she did. She had a counselor she was going to, and I should add that a lot of my frustration as a parent with the things that took place with Jasmine was because in the middle of all this, I was going through a divorce.
Yeah.
So initially, when Jasmine presented with some of these, she was fighting a lot. She was doing a lot of different things. The counselor initially said, "Well, she's going through this because of the divorce." And I was like, "Listen, I understand that's real. Kids get affected by divorce. I wasn't trying to downplay that, but I was trying to get these professionals to understand that I live with her all day long, and I know this more than that." But it took them about a year and a half to finally meet me there, where they were like, "Okay, you're right. We think there is something a little bit more going on." So ultimately, Jasmine was diagnosed as bipolar, and then starting the process of getting her on different medications and all that kind of stuff. So it was a difficult period of time for me. Like I said, all of that stuff, she's growing as kids grow, they become preteens, they become teenagers, you have all of that going on. She did struggle somewhat academically because of the foundation wasn't laid properly because she slept. And then, the emotional support stuff came into play. And then, like I said, ultimately we get the diagnosis. So that was a lot for me. And most of that I went through as a single parent at the time. My kids, I raised them as a single mother as they were teenagers. That was like, don't do that. If you can avoid doing that, you need to avoid doing that. Yeah, don't do that. That wasn't good. So anyway, fast forward to now.
Yes.
Jasmine has 3 children, and you can talk about those
Yes.
kids and all of that.
Well, before I get to me, my kids, because that's a whole nother chapter. I want to point out that we went through not really because I started medication when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
I finally got the diagnosis when I was 15, and I finally started medication. We went through a very hard stage because what the medication did to me.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
And why I'm explaining this is because I'm going to explain to you why I felt the way I felt with my kids.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that. The medication and the effect it had on you.
Medication for me was not, it wasn't the best for me.
So are we talking about the Ritalin or the bipolar meds?
No, the bipolar meds.
Okay.
Ritalin, I really don't kind of remember what kind of effect it did. I was so much younger.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to, I was taking lithium. And I was taking a very high dose of lithium.
Yes.
Because of, I would call them my, what are they called? My
episodes?
Yes, my episodes, yes. My episodes were so extreme that they put me on such a large dose that I kind of felt like, and I think I explained this to you later on in years, that I felt like I wasn't in control of my body.
Okay.
I felt like I just was looking at myself as I was going through life.
Okay.
Like I just was numb to so much stuff. Like I felt like I never was able to really show any type of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me, think about, and I'm going to get real depth with it. I thought about, hurting myself.
Mm-hmm.
And actually I went through a phase where I did hurt myself because that's the only way I could feel something.
And what were you doing during that phase?
I was cutting.
Mm-hmm.
I've burned myself. Mm-hmm. I used to do very reckless things. Like the only thing I could do was control myself. So I was in cosmetology, so I did a lot with my hair. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I can control. So literally I would come home from school, my hair would be green. Mm-hmm. Don't know why my hair is green. It's green because I could do that. Mm-hmm. And I did so much damage. And as a cosmetologist, I know a lot of people are cosmetologists, they're going to tell you, do not bleach your hair 3 times in 1 week. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. And then I was wondering why I didn't have back on my hair. So I just did a lot of reckless things because of that's what I could control because of the medicine. Okay. So fast forwarding to my kids, my oldest, he is on the spectrum. He is autistic. Jalen. Yes, Jalen. He is the light of my life. But why I say that it ties in with my medication is because when he started showing signs of being autistic, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to accept it. I was in denial. Nothing's wrong with him. He's perfectly fine. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he's just a little delayed, all that kind of stuff.
So, hold on one second. Let's talk just a little bit to give some folks that maybe don't know. What were some of the things that you noticed initially? And I'll talk about some of the things I noticed initially.
What I noticed initially was he was nonverbal. He would jabber, but it was not complete words. It wasn't complete sentences. It was just gibberish. Like, and it's funny because as his mom, I started learning what it meant for certain things. So I'm just like, oh, he's fine. Like, he just wants this. But they're like, that's not even a word.
Right,
it's
right.
it's like, what's going on with that? And the thing is that everything took so long. The binky, he wasn't off the binky till he was 4. The bottle, he wasn't off the bottle until he was 3.5, almost 4. Potty training took him till he was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And it's these things that I'm looking at and I'm just like, he's just delayed. I don't know what you guys are talking about. He's perfectly fine. But he wasn't.
But we got him. I know you're talking about some of those things that were delayed, but we actually got the diagnosis for him when he was 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but even though we got the diagnosis, even though we were going through the steps that we needed to, because I was living with my mom at the time. So this was my first child, I lived with my mom. I didn't have as much control as she might think. I didn't have that much control. She would tell me what to do, and I had to do it. That's how I felt.
Okay.
So with more of that, and I actually thank you for that, because if it was me on my own and I was doing this, I probably wouldn't have went through the steps because I was in so much of denial. So I kind of just was like, I'm going to do what she told me to do. I'm going to go through it. But it's helped him so much.
Yeah, one of the, I don't, depending on where you live, but I think most areas in the United States have early intervention programs, and that's actually what we did, And a lot of this, people are much more aware of being on the spectrum and all those types of things today, but, you take your child in for their checkups and they're asking you, questions about their development to kind of see where they are. And when things were falling behind, as Jasmine said, they recommend, early intervention, and we got them involved, and it really kind of sped things up as far as the services that he was available for. And, I think I don't want to say it's been good. I mean, it's difficult. When you have a child that has special needs, there's just so many more things you have to do. If you're a working parent, which most of us are, you have to take time off to take kids to their doctor's appointments, which, they come frequently or whatever. But when you have a special needs child, there's all these other appointments you have to go through.
Yeah.
You have to go to
the
IEPs, you have to go to
therapists.
the therapist, all these things. So it just adds such a layer of complexity onto your life and the things that you have to do. But I'll let you continue.
And the other thing, I'm so glad you brought that up actually, because another thing for me was I got a lot of negativity from work because having a special needs child in daycare or in school, you get called for everything. You get called if my son had episodes in daycare and he's thrown chairs, he punched a pregnant lady in the stomach, actually flipping tables, like
And I'm all too familiar with this because this one right here. Listen, the school had me on speed dial.
But see, his most thing is that he flipped out about things because he's very particular. That's the one thing I've learned about him, is that he's very particular. He likes his dinosaurs, he likes his sharks, and if anyone messes with that, that's where it came in. And mind you, he was an only child for 7 years. I didn't have my second child till he was 7 years old. So for 7 years, it was just me and him. It was mommy and Jalen, mommy and Jalen, mommy and Jalen. So going to daycare and having all these other kids, they want to play with his stuff. That's where the flip outs will be. And I've almost lost my job a couple times because I've had to leave work. I've had to, leave meetings. I've had to answer phone calls. And one thing that I want everybody to be aware of, I know you guys are bosses. I know these are companies. I know that. But the biggest thing is people don't understand is if you understand it, then understand it. And I had so many bosses say, well, I understand, but and then I'm on probation for 30 days and I'm just like, well, I'm going to lose my job because the one thing that one of my bosses said, I'm not going to name the company, he said, I needed to schedule around an autistic child's episodes. How in the world would I be able to do that?
I don't know how you do that.
Like, how would I know that, you know what? Jalen's gonna have a bad day today. Because honestly, there'll be days I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be bad. Like, me and him are fighting over him wearing a shark costume and he couldn't wear it today. But then you have a great day. Right. But then there's days where we had a great morning and then it would turn into such a horrific day. And literally, like, I'm bawling because, you know, it's a lot. And being a single mom and not knowing, because I didn't know anything. I was 19, 20, 21. Like, I did not know anything. The only autistic person I've ever been around was my cousin, and I didn't grow up with him. So it's not like I knew the ins and outs. So it was just so different.
And just real quick, another thing I want to point out is, you know, people today, I think primarily will say on the spectrum, because autism is a very large group of different diagnoses and issues. You know, you can have a highly functioning person, you know, so when people say autism, that's very broad, you know, so that's why, you know, on the spectrum is a little bit more of a...
Well, yeah, he's on the spectrum. And I want to explain that he's not, how can I explain? He is highly functioning. He highly functions. It's his motor skills. It's honestly just how he receives things. And it's mostly boundaries, and it's kind of just, it's not, it's how he takes in information. It's how he processes certain things. And that's the biggest thing, because one of my biggest, I think my fault is I don't like to stay in one place for that long.
Okay.
I like to move around. I like to go. I like to go. I don't like to be in one place. And that's hard for him. And I didn't really understand that until I've seen, you know, him, you know, living with you. Then it was just me and him. And then going to stay with his aunt for a little bit. And then going to stay with his yaya, which is his other grandmother. And it was a lot. And he just kind of was like, what's going on?
Right. And you know, that's the thing. With autistic children or children that are on the spectrum, you know, for one child, it might be change is hard. And for another child, you know, they might not be verbal. So there's all different types of ways that it affects the child. You know, for my grandson Jalen, like initially, he was one of those children that you might see wearing headphones out in public because noise was very, very difficult for him. But that's not an issue so much for him anymore.
It is. It actually is. It's not as bad because he knows how to, I guess, cycle it in his mind. So he knows when things are getting too much, he'll just put his hands in his. He just put his hands in his ears. Before, he would freak out.
Yeah, he would just, you know, it was just too much. Yeah.
So now he's just like, he'll do this and he'd be like, it's too loud. It's too loud. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's remove you.
Right.
And it's difficult now for me because now I'm in a different stage where I have 3 kids. And 2 younger kids who are loud, who are not showing signs of being on the spectrum. It was so much different because everything went so much faster. Like, my daughter was walking at 9 months. Jalen literally didn't walk till he was like almost 2. And, you know, then it was my younger son, he started walking, he was like 8, 9 months.
Yeah,
like,
he
it
was early,
everything was so much earlier. And then it's like potty training. My 3-year-old is potty trained now. And my younger son is starting to be potty trained. Like,
and he's almost 2.
And he's almost 2. So it's so much faster. And I'm just like, slow down, babies. Like,
not used to that.
Yes. So it's difficult because, no. The one thing I'm going to say is that I had fun with Jalen. I'm so glad that I waited as long as I did to have another child because I feel like if I would have had children back to back to back, he wouldn't have gotten the love and the attention that he needed. Because that's another thing is now he has to share attention. And he's not so much now like, oh, I want to be in mommy's face, because he has so much other things he wants to do. But before, it was all about me. He didn't want nobody else but me.
Right.
But then I did want to put out that I feel like I am going to have a problem with my younger one because he literally is me, embodies me. He does not like me. He prefers his dad. He does not sleep. He just doesn't.
Wait, doesn't he throw bottles?
And he throws bottles. He
Listen,
throws
y'all,
binkies, everything.
We used to say, my ex-husband and I used to say that she needed to be, we like the Redskins. We're Redskins fans. Well, she's not, but my ex-husband and I are. She needed to play for the Redskins because when we would give her a bottle at night, like, duck when you were trying to leave the room because she was chucking that thing.
Well, you know, it's so funny to say that because I hate going to the store with Charlie. I love him, but I hate going to the store with him because he's one of the people that if you show him eye contact, that baby's Like, and it's literally like he's aiming for your face every time. So I literally had to have like 10 binkies in my purse because I'm picking up binkies as he like. So people are like, "Oh, he's so cute." He's like, "Whoa!" Like that's just how.
Let me share my binky with you.
Yes, and it's so funny because today we went to the store and his dad was like so upset about it. He just was like, "Why does he always throw his binky?" As soon as somebody looks at him, I'm like, "That's how he says hello." Like that's just how he does it.
Yeah, so she's right. There are definitely some similarities that we're seeing with her behavior as a baby, and then her youngest one for sure.
So I definitely have Jalen, who's on the spectrum. I have an emotional one, which is Jalea. Jalea is emotional, very very emotional, and I think
she's dramatic.
It's dramatic. Like she's the one that I just say no, you can't have it. She's. You know what? Like, just shake
No. Let's talk about her falling asleep.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, y'all. This is hilarious. So, does she do that much anymore?
She doesn't do it as much as anymore.
Okay.
She gets more upset and she cries more now.
Okay, so let's say, what, a year ago?
She
was between, I guess, 2 to turning 3.
Yes.
She would do this thing where if she wanted something and you wouldn't let her have it, or it's just something that she wanted and it wasn't going to happen, and if she didn't like it, you see what Jasmine just did? That's what she would do. Like, she would just like...
She would slowly go into it. She'd be like... and then she opens up the one eye and she's like, are you looking? Are you looking? And she's just dramatic. And then I have my youngest, who is just everywhere. Like, he's one of the ones that it's so funny you said that before, like, they would wake up in the morning and be like, okay, let's just beat Jasmine now because we already know we're going to give her a beating. Mm-hmm. All right. And literally, like, we can smack his hand, he gets upset, and then
he continues to do whatever it is that you do. But that's, the same thing with me. I always say it with my 3 children. We did live in the same neighborhood, in the same house now. But so I had one teacher that had all 3 kids in elementary school, and after the 3rd one, Jennifer came through. She said to me, listen, I'm a teacher. She deals with all kind of kids. She's like, but when I think about what I know about your 3 kids, she said, honey, my heart goes out to you. They're they're all different, and like Jasmine's explaining, she has 3 very different personalities, and I mean most people. Most parents will say, the same thing about their children, that they're all different. But I see parts of Jasmine in all of her children. Mm-hmm. So Jalen has, he's on the spectrum. Jasmine was on the spectrum, but she has the special needs, and there's some things that need to go there. Jalea, dramatic. Drama queen right here, okay? And then Jalik just, he's just the explosive, just Hellraiser. That's the only word I can think of. Right. And this right here was my Hellraiser.
But you know what's funny? I see that in my siblings. Like, Jalen is Steven to me. He's very mild, calm, like,
laid back. Yeah.
If you don't mess with him, he's very just chill. Mm-hmm. Jalea is Jennifer. Emotional, dramatic. Like, and then Jalik is me. Like, he's me to a T. He doesn't like me. He doesn't like the mother. He wants his father for some apparent reason.
That's funny.
It's crazy to me because I catch myself calling my kids Steven, Jennifer, like Jasmine. I'm like, it's funny, but yes, that is my life with my kids.
Wow. So anything else you want to share with them about the challenges of, dealing with a child that's on the spectrum? And talk just a little bit. We're going to end this in a few minutes, but talk a little bit about any of the challenges with the school or that process.
Schooling, it was it was difficult because he actually doesn't go to the school that he's supposed to, like his homeschool, they would call it. He actually goes to a different school that's with his autistic program. That's what they call it, the special needs program. That's where he goes. And the crazy thing is that how they explain it to me is that the one that's at his homeschool, it was too advanced for him. He was too advanced for him. So he goes to one that fits his, So I deal with the fact that if he missed the bus, I'm driving literally 20 minutes, 30 minutes to take him to school. Right. It's so far away. I've dealt with, teachers who, I'm younger. So I feel like sometimes they talk not down to me, but they kind of like, oh, she don't know anything. Let's.
Well, and that bus ride thing that irritated my soul, y'all. And let me tell you why. Because one of the issues we had when Jalen started going to school was him being on the bus. You know,
Mhm.
he was not behaving on the bus. He wasn't sitting down and all that kind of stuff. And we get it's important that the kids are in the seats and they're not distracting the driver. I'm not downplaying any of that. But my issue was, so we already know this child has an issue with the bus.
Mhm.
Why are we going to take him from a 5-minute ride to a 25-minute ride when you know he has issues with being on the bus?
Mhm.
Like that to me, it's like we're not being a cohesive unit. We're not thinking this process through. And I get that they have a number of kids that they have to deal with. But when you're dealing with an IEP, you are supposed to be bringing everyone together. The parents are there, the teacher, the principal, any people that are a part of this child's team are supposed to be a part of, deciding what needs to be put in place for this child. So from my perspective, that's just one of the areas where I think they really kind of fell down on their job as far as making that work. But
Right.
It is what it is, and he's transitioned well.
He transitioned well for the bus because and the other thing was he's switched schools twice now.
Right.
He was at a certain school and then the program got moved to a different school. So that was a big, because the other thing I want to say, his biggest thing is change.
Change, yeah.
Change is a big thing for him. So when they changed different schools, that was a big fiasco. And then literally within the first week of him going to this new school, they had 4 different buses.
Oh, wow.
4 different bus changes because either they were forgetting to pick him up, or they were coming too early to pick him up, or they didn't know the address correctly. It just was so much. And then on top of all of this, my son had the same teacher since kindergarten. He is in 4th grade now. He just switched teachers. He just got a new teacher this year. So that was another big thing, is because he doesn't have the same teacher. So, he asked me, oh, where's Miss this so-and-so, and why don't I get to see Miss so-and-so? Does she not like me? And that's the kind of things I deal with, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then on top of the bus, so the school district, they are help, but sometimes they fall flat at certain things. It's kind of crazy, because I feel like she's still doing the same program that she's doing for each. She has 4th graders, all that. They just split the class a little bit.
Okay.
But then, why wouldn't you keep the one that is, not good with
that
change?
has the issue with change.
And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But it was just like, I love his teacher now. She's really nice. I'm not saying anything bad about her, but that was just a big thing for me. It was a lot.
And that's another thing. Again, parents that have children with special needs, being on top of what's going on with the school and making sure the lines of communication are open. I remember his first teacher, again, we won't mention her name, that she had him all those years. She was a very good communicator, in my opinion. She would send emails. She was sending the little daily log home to let you know how his day was, good day, bad day, whatever. And we had this communication system where you could send her information, like Jasmine had mentioned before. If something happened, you think it might be a bad day, kind of give her a heads up so she knows what she's dealing with. I don't know if you have that same type of communication with his current teacher or not, but he's older now, so it's a little, and a lot of that was established, as Jasmine mentioned, Jalen is verbal, but he wasn't always very verbal.
Not at all.
So in the beginning, we needed to kind of be his communicator, because he wasn't able to let people know what was going on, but he's a lot more verbal now, and he can express himself very well.
Yes,
so,
very well.
That piece of it, I don't know if I want to say resolve, because he's 10. I don't know that he speaks like a 10-year-old.
No.
But he can communicate to you his wants and needs, and if he doesn't like something, you will definitely know.
But also that has been a challenge. I know we're gonna
get to.
That is a challenge for my my younger kids, though, because he's delayed. So now my younger child, my middle child, Julia, is showing signs of being delayed with speech, because she follows after him. She gets how he says certain things and how he puts things together, which is not always correct. Which he's learning that, but she's picking up on that.
Right. Well, for that, and Julia's not. I mean, she's in the preschool room now.
Yeah.
Knowing that, the teachers, you yourself, working with that, and also both of them, as Jalen's learning, if he's saying something incorrectly, you know what the point he's trying to get across, but it's important to kind of correct him so that all of the kids are, kind of hearing the same thing. But, that's a good point, that you could have those challenges with the other kids. So, anyway, this has been a good discussion, Jasmine. I appreciate you, talking with me and letting me kind of share my story and then giving your perspective or perception about how things were for you and what you've dealt with your kids.
Yes, thank you. Thanks
Stuff,
for having me.
Stuff.
This was always fun.
Thanks, everyone. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.